Welcome back to OneTime YouTube channel. Today we'll be looking at the top 10 best American president in the history. Number 10. Barack Obama. From 2009 to 2017. Obama's signature domestic policy accomplishment, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, was unpopular with Republicans but extended health insurance coverage to 20 million Americans. His administration helped guide the country through the Great Recession and rescued the U.S. auto industry. Historians have given him weaker marks for his dealings with Congress and international relations. Number 9. Ronald Reagan. From 1981 to 1989, Reagan scored highly for public persuasion skills and setting the national agenda. By working with Congress, Reagan was able to pass legislation that sped economic growth and strengthened national defense, advancing his vision of peace through strength in the years leading up to the end of the Cold War. Number 8. John F. Kennedy. From 1961 to 1963, historians credit Kennedy most for his skills in public persuasion and his vision. He also rates well for crisis management and handling international relations. He stood up to the Soviets and successfully defused the Cuban Missile Crisis. He also inspired Americans by vowing to put a man on the moon, and he supported progress on civil rights. He was assassinated after barely 1,000 days in office. Number 7. Thomas Jefferson. From 1801 to 1809, Jefferson was ranked highest in the survey for his vision. He was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, writing that all men are created equal, even as he continued to own slaves. During his presidency he acquired a Louisiana territory, vastly expanding the size of the country, and he slashed the national debt by a third. Number 6. Harry Truman. From 1945 to 1953, Truman wins praise from historians for his foreign policy leadership. Though unpopular when he left office, he has grown more highly regarded by historians over the years. After VE Day, when Japan refused to surrender, he ordered that atomic bombs be dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, finally ending World War II in the Pacific. Shortly thereafter, Truman watched the signing of the Charter of the United Nations, established to preserve peace. Number 5. Dwight Eisenhower. From 1953 to 1961, Eisenhower, a celebrated commander in World War II, saw his energies as president largely devoted to the onset of the Cold War. He obtained a truce after years of war in Korea, continued the desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces, and sent federal troops to enforce a court order desegregating public schools in Little Rock, Arkansas. Number 4. Theodore Roosevelt. From 1901 to 1909, Theodore Roosevelt ranked highly for public persuasion. Just 42 when he became the youngest president in the nation's history, he had the enthusiasm and energy to convince Congress to pass progressive reforms and a strong foreign policy, exemplified by his motto, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." An avid outdoorsman, he oversaw the expansion of America's national parks. Number 3. Franklin Roosevelt. From 1933 to 1945, historians laud Franklin Roosevelt for his skills at public persuasion, ranking him first among all presidents in that category. FDR assumed the presidency during the worst of the Great Depression, but assured the American people, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." He also led the U.S. through the perilous years of World War II. He is the only American president ever elected to 4 terms, though he died before completing the last one. Number 2. George Washington. From 1789 to 1797, the nation's first president, ranked above all others for moral authority and overall performance within the context of his times. Washington fought hard for the Constitution, feeling that the Articles of Confederation were not functioning well for the country. He was disappointed to see the country becoming more politically divided toward the end of his first term, and set a precedent by choosing to retire after his second. Number 1. Abraham Lincoln. From 1861 to 1865. Among all the U.S. presidents, Lincoln takes first place for crisis leadership ability and for pursuing equal justice for all. He led the country through one of its most trying periods, the Civil War, and in 1863 signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.